Let's take a look at how we can identify some various lines and segments drawn within a circle. So let's start with the first one here, segment AC. I know it's a segment because it's got just that bar above it, and it's going to be important whether things are lines or segments as we go through this. So taking a look at the diagram here, segment AC is this segment right here. Well, I can see, of course, any segment that goes from the center of the circle to the circle is called the radius. I'm sure we've heard of that before. Next up, if we go next to this, I'm looking at segment AB. Well, this time I'm going to find that in my circle, and that goes all the way across the circle, straight through the center of the circle. So that segment's going to be called a diameter. Now, in a moment, we'll talk about things called chords, and chords are segments that go across a circle. So actually, segment AB could also be called a chord. However, because it goes through the center, it's got a very specific name. So I'm going to say that a diameter is the best name for this, although I could technically also call that a chord. Next up, they tell me I have a ray. That's the line or the bar with an arrow on one end. So I've got a ray that starts at D and then goes towards E. So I'm beginning right here at point D, going through just touching the circle one time and then continuing that direction. A line, a ray, or a segment, anything that comes through and touches a circle just once and skims the surface of that circle is called a tangent. So this ray is a tangent. And last up, I have a line. I know this is a line because my label has arrows on both ends. So this is line AE. I can see that that's over here, this line that goes through. It comes through and touches the circle 2 times. So it's not a tangent because it touches twice, and it's not a chord because it continues all the way through. This is something that I'd call a secant. A line that goes through and touches the circle 2 times. Okay. Next up, they asked me to name 2 chords of the circle. Well, recall we said a chord is a segment that goes across the circle. So actually, AB, what I've already labeled as a diameter, but we've talked about, is also a chord. I'm picky about labels, so make sure don't just say AB, but show that it is in fact a segment. So use that segment label. One other chord that I can see in this diagram is right here connecting A and G together. So there's a chord that's not a diameter, it's just some segment that goes across the circle. So AG, segment AG, is also an example. Some people try to tell me things like BC is a chord. If you take a look at the diagram, I can see that BC is not a chord because it does not go all the way across the circle. It's just a radius. And last up, they asked me for the point of tangency. The point of tangency is the single point where the tangent touches the circle. So I can see that that occurred right there where my line went through, just skimmed the surface of the circle. So point B is my point of tangency.